Hi, this is Allie from the Perception Trainers and author of the Perception Diet, and I'm here today to talk to you about emotions. So in our last video, we talked about how both your positive and your negative emotions are there as internal guides. They're part of your internal compass, helping you to steer your life down your right life path. So we talked about how when you feel positive emotions, that's your internal guidance system letting you know that you're on the right path. And when you feel negative emotions, it's part of your internal guidance system letting you know that you've strayed from your right path. So in this video, I want to kind of expand way more on the idea of emotions, and especially about our negative emotions, because I feel in our society we have totally lost track with how we are supposed to use our negative emotions to our advantage, how we're supposed to use them as tools to help us navigate our lives. And so to begin, when we talk about negative emotions, there are kind of two separate ways in which we're going to experience a negative emotion in our life. The first way is an acute negative emotional reaction to a specific circumstance. So someone you love passes away, or you go through a really tough breakup, or you fail an exam. These types of negative emotions, that's not your internal guidance system telling you you've gone off track when you feel sad that someone you love passed away, right? Like this is part of the human experience. This is part of you experiencing life. This is not like those are emotions you're supposed to go through and process and feel, and that makes sense, okay? The second type of negative emotion is the type that I want to talk about more in this video, and those are those prolonged, underlying, kind of colors your life with no distinctive cause negative emotions. So I'm talking like when you're experiencing chronic fear, or chronic depression, or chronic anxiety, or chronic sadness, or just a chronic not feeling fulfilled. So these are the negative emotions that are really your internal guidance system telling you that something's gone off. Okay. So now, there is only one reason that you would experience these prolonged, I'm off my path negative emotions, negative feelings, these chronic feelings that don't seem to have a reason or a start date, or they tend to have, you can always find something to be anxious about, you can always find something to be depressed about, or you just have that chronic underlying depression no matter what's going on. The reason that those negative emotions happen is because you've taken on some sort of false belief that doesn't align with who you know yourself to be, or doesn't align with who you know the universe to be. So you're experiencing either that acute negative emotion that makes sense, or you're experiencing that chronic negative emotion that comes from you taking on a false belief. Okay? So you've either taken on a false belief about yourself, or you've taken on a false belief about the universe. And then from here, you're going to start creating behavior patterns based on these false beliefs that then lead you down this whole big long rabbit trail, which is why when we look at a negative emotion, when we look at depression, we look at anxiety or whatever, it's not so easy to just be like, oh, it's because you believe that you're not good enough, or oh, it's because you believe that the universe is going to screw you over if you trust it, right? It's because we've taken on these false beliefs, and then because from the very get-go we don't know how to interpret our emotions, we get ourselves in a tangled mess. So usually what happens when we're very young children, we learn that negative emotions are not okay. We learn that it's not okay to throw a tantrum. We learn that it's not okay to cry. It's not okay to get angry. It's not okay to have these emotional outbursts, negative emotional outbursts. And we learn that because the people that we love, like our parents and our teachers and our grandparents or whatever, have a negative emotional reaction to our negative emotions. And we learn that, okay, these people that I love, these people that I depend on for love, these people that I depend on for nourishment, these people that I depend on for survival, don't like it when I do this negative emotional thing. So I better learn how to stop doing it. I better learn how to take that underground. So what happens is we take on this false belief. So for instance, perhaps we take on the false belief that our value is tied into what we produce in the world. So we've taken on this false belief. So then we start building up behavior patterns around this false belief. So say we start going to school for a thing that we don't actually want to do. We feel that negative emotion. We've taken on that false belief. We already don't feel good. But we're not allowed to express it because that's not okay. We've learned that long ago. And so we are like, well, I gotta measure up. I gotta be producing something that's of value to the world and that other people will value. So maybe I'm going to go into dentistry, even though I hate dentistry. And the idea of doing this dentistry path sucks, and it makes me feel crappy and stressed, and I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it, right? So then you start going on this dentistry path, and you go all the way through school feeling shitty, feeling crappy. There's all this emotional guidance happening that we're just like pushing away. And then we, get into the dentistry path, and we're all the way down this rabbit trail. And then along the way, we also learn how to numb out our emotions. And we learn that, okay, so I'm feeling shitty about school, so maybe I'll just drink, or maybe I'll just start eating, or maybe I'll just start obsessing about my body, or maybe I'll obsessively exercise, or maybe I'll start dating a bunch of guys that really don't treat me well. And so we start to create all these other little distractions, and these are little or big distractions, other problems all around the big problem. So now not only do we have this false belief that took us down this weird path that didn't align with us, that then created the need for us to try to distract ourselves from our negative emotions through eating or through drinking or whatever. So we create this other sub-problem. So now we're like having trouble with our weight, so we're overweight. We don't know how to listen to our bodies anymore. We've totally used our body as a way to distract ourselves. We're in this job that we hate, and we've created this life that we don't like. We're constantly plagued with anxiety and fear and depression, and we think that there's something wrong with us. And like, okay, now you can kind of see how this can all unfold. That because we don't understand that our negative emotions are meant to be felt and fully acknowledged and fully brought into light so that we can fully understand what they're trying to tell us, we go down this whole big long rabbit trail that eventually leads us to not being able to understand how we got there at all. And we think that there's something wrong with us. So to put this into a metaphor to make it maybe make a little bit more sense, this is how I see it. Imagine your negative emotions are like your pain response in your body. Okay, so your negative emotion just like your pain response in your body. So when you're going to cook yourself a meal and you place your hand on top of the burner that's on, your hand is going to start hurting, right? There's going to be that pain response, like, ouch, this is fire, it's burning my hand. It's not in alignment with the health of my hand and the health of my body. So your pain response, your body is like, hey, yo, this hurts, take your hand off the burner. But instead of doing that, we're like, oh, okay, now I'm starting to feel this pain response in my hand. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Oh, yeah, dang, there's something wrong with me. I'm feeling pain when I put my hand on this burner. There's something wrong with me. It's okay, though. Maybe if we just don't look at it, it'll go away. Just, like, don't look at it. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it'll go away. Okay, and then you keep your hand there. It doesn't go away. The pain actually starts to get better. You start to feel embarrassed. You start to feel like, oh, my God, there's something, like, really wrong with me. My hand is burning. My hand is just, like, on fire. It's okay, though. I'm just going to do this with my other hand, and maybe I'll distract myself long enough that I won't feel the pain anymore. And like, we keep doing this, and we keep distracting ourselves, and then this pain in our hand, and like, our hand just keeps burning and getting worse, and eventually maybe your hand catches on fire, or you get third-degree burns, blah, 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 and you're just continually waving your hand in front of your face. And maybe you start to tell other people, guys, come. My hand hurts. I have to be honest with you, my hand is like really hurting. And then everyone around you, instead of being like, oh yeah, take your hand off the burner, they're like, oh, yeah, let's talk about it, let's process it. When did your hand start hurting? When you put it on the burner? Okay. So, yeah, maybe we need to like pray a prayer of forgiveness for the burner. Or like, we need to like put some salve on it. Or maybe we should, do some sacred ceremony dance around your hand, and maybe it'll heal. And right? Okay, and I don't mean for this to sound like I'm demeaning any of those things, because I fully believe that we all go through processes, and we all need to, you know, have things that we do and whatever. But the truth is, at the end of the day, the thing that's going to make your hand stop hurting is to take your hand off the burner, right? And it's the same thing with our emotions. We can process, and we can figure out where the pain came from, and we can figure out where the pain started, and we can, you know, distract ourselves with all these other things, and we can fool ourselves into thinking that we've, you know, processed the pain or whatever. But if you're continually feeling the pain and it's not going away, you're not, the emotion is not going away, the anxiety is not going away, the depression is not going away, it's because you haven't actually let the depression or the anxiety or the fear tell you what it's trying to tell you. And so the first thing you need to really embrace and understand about your negative emotions is that they are there for you. They are part of your guidance system. They're trying to help you get back on a path that would make you feel joyful. And if you've got all of these false beliefs going on that are keeping you from living your life purpose, you've probably also built up a whole bunch of fear around feeling your negative emotion. And this is, I think, the most chronic thing that we see in our society, is that we're actually afraid of our negative emotions. We are scared to look at our anxiety. We're afraid to look at our depression. We're even afraid to look into our fear, because we're scared that if we actually go there, we really go inside and really look at it, I think a lot of us are just afraid that it's going to totally overtake us, that it's going to just take our whole lives, and, you know, we'll never recover. That if we stop distracting ourselves and we really go in there and really look at what's going on, that we're going to, like, die. And I think that, as silly as that might sound, it's the truth. We're afraid that something really terrible is going to happen if we look at it. And so, for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to have enough time to actually walk you through a process of getting into your emotions in this video, but I am going to do a whole nother video on that. So for now, I just want you to think about what I've said, that perhaps your negative emotions are actually there because you've taken on a false belief that made you made you go down a false path that had different behavior patterns that weren't in alignment with you, that made you feel like there was something wrong with you for feeling your negative emotion, and then you took on all these ways of trying to distract yourself from the negative emotion because you were taught that if you were to actually look at your negative emotion, it's going to take you down, right? And so let's just start with that, yeah? So your negative emotion is actually there to help you. It's actually a very positive thing if we learn how to speak the language of our negative emotions. And I'm not trying to demean or diminish your negative emotion as though it's not that big of a deal and it's something you can just, like, do a little process and get rid of. What I'm trying to say is that let's not look at it like there's something wrong with you, because it isn't. There isn't anything wrong with you. If you've got anxiety or depression or whatever, that means your emotional guidance system is working. That means that there's nothing wrong with you. That, in fact, means that you're fully alive and everything's activated and everything's working, right? You just need to learn how to speak the language of your emotions. And that's what we're going to cover in our next video. But for now, just sit with that for a while. Just see if every time you feel that negative emotion, you can be like, instead of automatically wanting to push it away and automatically getting afraid of it and automatically wanting to run from it and automatically wanting to numb out, I'm going to invite you just to say, okay, thank you, guidance system, for telling me that something that I believe is out of alignment with who I am. And that's it. Just acknowledge that that negative emotion is there for you. And then do that. Do that for a little while. And then in our next video, I'm going to give you an actual process to work through so that you can get into the middle of your negative emotion and actually figure out what it's trying to tell you so you can lead yourself back down your right path. But for now, just acknowledge that that emotion is there for you. It's not something that's going to take you down. It's not bad. It's good. Okay? If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, anything that what I said offended you or whatever, that's great. Comment down below, and I will see you in our next video for our process.